So I just had the craziest idea, okay? So we have how Rue dies? It's like how Rue dies, except Percy Jackson, okay? So hear me out. We have Rue as Jason Grace, Katniss as Thalia Grace, and then Marvin, I think that's his name, the boy from District 1, as Galigila. It checks out, and it's so sad, and
I
I'm
grin and
now
move in the direction of the
depressed.
bird. Another, just a short distance ahead, picks up on a handful of notes. Rue has been singing to them, and recently. Otherwise, they'd have taken up some other song. My eyes lift up into the trees, searching for a sign of her. I swallow and sing softly back, hoping she'll know it's safe to join me. A mockingjay repeats the melody to me. And that's when I hear the scream. It's a child's scream, a young girl's scream. There's no one in the arena capable of making that sound except Rue. And now I'm running, knowing this may be a trap, knowing the three careers may be poised to attack me, but I can't help myself. There's another high-pitched cry, this time my name. Katniss! Katniss! Rue! I shout back, so she knows I'm near, so they know I'm near. And hopefully the girl, who has attacked them with tracker jackers and gotten an 11 they still can't explain, will be enough to pull their attention away from her. Rue, I'm coming! When I break into the clearing, she's on the ground, hopelessly entangled in a net. She just has time to reach her hand through the mesh and say my name before the spear enters her body. Chapter 18. The boy from District 1 dies before he
yards into dust. Jason stepped out of the smoke on the opposite side of the throne room, his gladius in his hand. Caligula snarled. "You're one of those Camp Jupiter brats, aren't you?" "I'm Jason Grace," he said. "Former praetor of the 12th Legion, son of Jupiter, child of Rome. I belong to both camps." "Good enough," Caligula said. "I'll hold you responsible for Camp Jupiter's treason tonight. Incitatus?" The Emperor snatched up a golden spear that was rolling across the floor. He vaulted onto his stallion's back, charged the chasm, and leaped it in a single bound. Jason threw himself aside to avoid getting trampled. From somewhere to my left came a howl of anger. Piper McLean had risen. Her lower face was a nightmare, her swollen upper lip split across her teeth, her jaw askew, a trickle of blood coming from the edge of her mouth. She charged Medea, who turned just in time to catch Piper's fist in her nose. The sorceress stumbled, pinwheeling her arms as Piper pushed her over the edge of the chasm. The sorceress disappeared into the churning soup of burning fuel and seawater. Piper shouted at Jason. She might have been saying, "Come on," but all that came out was a guttural cry. Jason was a little busy. He dodged Incitatus's charge, parrying Caligula's spear with his sword, but he was moving slowly. I could only guess how much energy he'd expended controlling the winds and the lightning. "Get out of here," he called to us. "Go!" An arrow sprouted from his left thigh. Jason grunted and stumbled. Above us, more Pandai had gathered, despite the threat of severe thunderstorms. Piper yelled in warning as Caligula charged again. Jason just managed to roll aside. He made a grabbing gesture at the air, and a gust of wind yanked him aloft. Suddenly, he sat astride a miniature storm cloud with 4 funnel clouds for legs and a mane that crackled with lightning. Tempest, his Ventus steed. He rode against Caligula, jousting sword versus spear. Another arrow took Jason in the upper arm. "I told you this isn't a game," yelled Caligula. "You don't walk away from me alive!" Below, an explosion rocked the ship. The room split farther apart. Piper staggered, which probably saved her life. 3 arrows hit the spot where she'd been standing. Somehow she pulled me to my feet. I was clutching the arrow of Dodona, though I had no memory of picking it up. I saw no sign of Crest or Meg or even Medea. An arrow sprouted from the toe of my shoe. I was in so much pain already, I couldn't tell if it had pierced my foot or not. Piper tugged at my arm. She pointed to Jason, her words urgent but unintelligible. I wanted to help him, but what could I do? I just stabbed myself in the chest. I was pretty sure that if I sneezed too hard, I would displace the red plug in my wound and bleed to death. I couldn't draw a bow or even strum a ukulele. Meanwhile, on the broken roofline above us, more and more Pandai appeared, eager to help me commit arrowside. Piper was no better off. The fact that she was on her feet at all was a miracle. The sort of miracle that comes back to kill you later when the adrenaline wears off. Nevertheless, how could we leave? I watched in horror as Jason and Caligula fought. Jason bleeding from arrows in each limb now, yet somehow still able to raise his sword. The space was too small for 2 men on horses, yet they circled one another, trading blows. Incitatus kicked at Tempest with his golden shod front hooves. The Ventus responded with bursts of electricity that scorched the stallion's white flanks. As the former praetor and the Emperor charged past each other, Jason met my eyes across the ruined throne room. His expression told me his plan with perfect clarity. Like me, he had decided that Piper McLean would not die tonight. For some reason, he had decided that I must live too. He yelled again. go! Remember. I was slow, dumbstruck. Jason held my gaze a fraction of a second too long, perhaps to make sure that last word sank in. Remember. The promise he had extracted from me 1,000,000 years ago this morning, in his Pasadena dorm room. While Jason's back was turned, Caligula wheeled about. He threw his spear, driving its point between Jason's shoulder blades. Piper screamed. Jason stiffened, his blue eyes wide in shock. He slumped forward, wrapping his arms around Tempest's neck.